know that.
Sorry.
That's why we keep you around. Pay you the big bucks. All right, here we go. It is that time of once again a 1 week hiatus, and I feel like I haven't talked golf in quite some time, so I'm excited to be back. PGA DFS live before lock from Awesemo.com. I am Ben Rasa. I am joined by my good friend and co-host Eric Lindquist. We are back in business. Sanderson Farms Championship is upon us. The Ryder Cup was entertaining, even though it was an absolute beatdown. I'm excited, though, to get back to traditional swing season, cut sweats, just like old times. What do you think?
Oh, I'm here for it, my guy. I mean, we get Sam Burns on Bermuda. It doesn't get much better. I mean, you should just know where I'm going right off the bat.
Yeah, Sam Burns, I'm not going to say it's the only time he'll be the top price player in life, but it might be. So we'll savor that and more. Friends at Monkey Knife Fight sponsoring the show. Gonna get into some things in a bit with their picks, but I do want to say right off the top, because they've been sticking with us the entire year. We have appreciated, of course. If you haven't been over there, it's still plenty of time to do it. They are still continuing their player prop-based contest. Super easy to play, not a huge learning curve, not a huge time commitment. PGA should be your thing, of course, but if not, they've got NBA starting up soon enough, UFC, obviously the NFL and MLB still got playoffs to go. Go to monkeyknifefight.com, choose what game you want to play, your buy-in, all the things that you would do at a traditional DFS site. And even better, we have an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with that promo code Awesemo. We're going to get into a couple picks in a minute, but before we do that, I want to talk about the weather. I want to talk about any potential withdrawals or anything, just because I think that is important right off the top. I think the withdrawal, are we completely smooth sailing so far?
Yeah, looks like it. There's been some talk of some guy. It looks fine. It looks 100% fine to me.
What about the weather? You see anything on the weather side?
I literally just Googled it because I am the most unprepared person in all the land today. Actually, no, this isn't true. I feel like Jason and I did great work on Monday here. I'm looking at good old Jackson, Alabama. You know what? Google seems like a great place to go to today. Let's take a look. Going to be wet a little bit tomorrow. Let me do this as a weatherman. Can I do that?
Please, but find Jackson, Mississippi first.
Oh, that's why I wasn't coming up.
Maybe there's a Jackson, Alabama. I never heard of that one.
I bet there is, but I mean, I literally just was in the back of my brain, not even processing. Ooh, I see lightning, perhaps 8 miles per hour with precipitation near, what is that? 84%. So getting excited for such things. Going to be a wet one Thursday, going to be a wet one Friday, perhaps. It looks like a little less precipitous chance on Friday, but 87 degrees, it's humid, it's the South, it's still September, so you kind of know what to expect.
I think so. I don't see anything too concerning. Certainly, as we all know, wind is the big catalyst for what could impact something. I don't see anything like that. Maybe you get a rain delay. With lightning and stuff, you can't even begin to predict that because it's completely random. So I think we're in the clear, and that's what we like to see. You know what? Swing season has enough variables. There's all sorts of things that we're going to talk about. I see chat already asking about the Corn Ferry guys. The last thing we want is more variables with the weather. So I think we're in the clear there. I'm very excited. And that leads me into kind of some of these Monkey Knife Fight picks that I do want to talk about. They have so many different formats over there. Eric, I know that you've done a ton of videos for them. They've got some rapid fire. They've got some more or less types. We're going over and under. A couple that caught my eye. I'm just going to throw them out there. For more or less, you're going to predict how many birdies will a guy make. You've got Corey Connors at 18.5. That's the over under. Certainly with the 4 par 5s and his ability to really get hot with the irons. I'm not in love with him this week, but I do think he makes a reasonable play, and I wouldn't be stunned to see him push over that number, 18.5 birdies. What do you think on something like that?
Yeah, so Corey Connors, we just talk about everybody's putting over and over again? I mean, the guy, if the putter's even semi-competent, I mean, everything you're seeing tee to green is just ridiculous with him. So off the tee, second amongst this field in the last 50 rounds, a strokes gained approach third. Just going to be a ball striking Jesse out there. And looking at the profile of some of the guys who have done well, Sergio Garcia, I got to think that there's definitely an opportunity for him to go nuts. So I do like doing a little bit more of some of the head-to-heads that exist out there on Monkey Knife Fight. I think that that's always a very appealing way. I think long-term that's been more profitable for me, but in the more or less stuff, I don't mind being bullish on Corey Connors.
So I'm glad you said that, because one of the other types they have is rapid fire and whatnot. And they have a Corey Conners versus Sergio who will have more birdies. So if you have a line on something like that, and you say, you know what, one of those guys maybe is coming off a Ryder Cup, and they've got, as you see here, several different head-to-heads. I like that format. I think you can do that. You can kind of hone in. It's almost similar to the betting market where you're talking about a matchup. And that's something I really enjoy over there. So definitely check those out.
Can I interject 1 second before you finish? Rapid fire. There, you have to get in on this. So there's 3x you're buying rapid fire. The last one that he clicked on, Cameron Davis versus Corey Conners, with Corey Conners getting 3.5 fantasy points. Okay, let's play that. That's the best play you can possibly have on Monkey Knife Fight. The rapid fire. I mean, just stop it. Cameron Davis won one golf tournament. Just stop it. Go to Corey Conners plus 3.5. You're getting points for a guy that I would project on the flip side of Cameron Davis. I'm much higher on Corey Conners. Get to that immediately.
You see, this guy, he says he's unprepared, and then he comes out from the depths with these rapid fire type things.
The pure nuts is what I
like that. See, chat, we're giving you edges on edges here. So again, shout out to Monkey Knife Fight. You got that promo code there. Some really good ways to kind of get exposure to just golf in general this week. Let's talk about the course, though, because no matter where you're playing, you're going to need to know how to attack Jackson, Mississippi. Can confirm that. Country Club of Jackson. They've played here a lot. It's 4 par 5s. It's very gettable. Fast greens is one of the things, and I do want to talk about that in a bit. But when you see this course, what strikes you? Does any skill set stand out?
So, I mean, for me, I've done a lot of, you and I both like to go back and forth on another website to take a look at some of these things where you can group it based on fast greens. You can group it based on Bermuda. I think I've been kind of channeling a lot of that here lately. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward Southern course, going to be a lot of birdies made. This strict out Bermuda, there's certain players that just seem to handle it better than others. And that's just specifically with the putter. And you know, in these scoring events, we talk about it all the time. You got to get it close to the hole and you got to make a lot of these putts. It seems as though driving accuracy, not as much of a premium. And so, I mean, I'm kind of looking more towards guys who can still bomb it. I mean, I know that there's a guy that I just have a feeling we're on the same guy in the bombing category, sub 7K, based on Talking Monday, and a guy that we've talked about before. Rhymes with Pulinex. So I'm excited to talk about him. Cool. I had a feeling. And so I'm looking forward to find some of these bombers to be looking at, guys who can get it hot with a putter, and people that I can just kind of find some type of narratives to be able to draw, like, you know, my guy Sam Burns, Patton Kazai, or JT Poston. Yeah, I said it. Don't worry about it. But some of these guys that just do so well on Bermuda, I'm going to be going their way.
There's certainly something to that, but I thought the thing that stood out the most, and it's a swing season type theme, anyone can win in these type of events. Oh, yeah. There is no doubt that guys can get crazy hot with the putter. You see pure iron players in the mix. You see bombers. But the thing I want to talk about, I think, from what I can gather, that the uniqueness of these greens seems like a neutralizer. Sergio was in the midst of the worst putting streak I have ever seen getting to Sanderson Farms, and then he won here. We've got guys like Benny On has had a good showing here. Luke List has had a good showing here. Corey Conners came in second in 2019. A lot of these guys are notoriously really weak putters. It seems to me that you can kind of find something here, maybe with this just fast Bermuda. Maybe it's a different type of surface. I'm not saying you don't want to target good putters. I'm just saying I've seen some guys that are notoriously bad putters find their way at Sanderson Farms in the past.
Well, let's just group it here. Let's group a little bit by some of the faster putting. And, you know, it's not even that we need them to go nuts with a putter. We need them to be flat with a putter. Like that's kind of what you're looking for out of a guy like Sergio, if you're going to be playing his direction, or, you know, a couple of these other bombers. Like, you're just hoping that they can be semi put together here. I mean, what was Sergio Garcia? I'm assuming he gained strokes putting that week, but do you have that number offhand of what it was?
So I can tell you right now. And again, I just want to reference, it doesn't mean, you know, all of a sudden bad putters become good, but clearly this complex is pretty forgiving at times if these guys get hot. Sergio had lost in 9 straight events, and then he gained 2.8 at Sanderson Farms, and he won that week. Cam Champ, as chat just point up, He gained 9 strokes putting when he won there. You see that here. It doesn't mean, again, that Luke List is going to win. He'll probably win for other reasons, but at the same time, I don't think you want to just cross out bad putters. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, Cameron Davis, 6th year. Let's see, a couple of the Keegan Bradley top 5 last year. So there's definitely something we can draw from that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And listen, on the flip side, Peter Malnati and JT Poston, 2nd and 3rd last year, both elite putters. So it's not to say it's one or the other. I think it just shows the inclusion of all types of players there, which makes the build a little difficult, but I also think it makes it kind of an interesting game theory situation.
A little bit less of your narrative of grouping players together. Again, these are some of the faster surfaces you have. So I think that maybe does neutralize it a little bit, where not everybody, even really good putters are going to put good rolls on it, not necessarily make everything, and bad putters, they can just kind of coast it out there. I think when you're putting poorly, and this is just my belief on things, it's advantageous to play on the fastest greens possible, because it gets everybody feels nervous over those same putts, regardless if you're a really good putter or a really bad putter. And plus, you don't have to put as long of a stroke on it. You can kind of just stab at it, and the ball is going to get to the hole every time. You don't have to try to help the ball to the hole.
Yeah, I always feel the guy that reminds me of the most is Bubba. I feel like Bubba dives them in, and when he gets on lightning fast greens, particularly Augusta, like he's more comfortable. It seems like, maybe that's wrong, but that is always
you're
how
dead wrong.
I judge it. And I think this course has some similarities in that regard. You're going to get the par 5s. You're going to take advantage. I think we both think pretty standard, easy conditions, nothing comically bad, but, flirting with 20 under.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, what was it last year? 19, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
I think it was 19 and something. And that kind of seems to be around the number it is. Yeah. 20 is kind of what you're targeting for. I mean, 5 under per. I think that sounds about right for the winner here.
Yeah. So you've got streaks, you've got bonuses in play. We know the drill. Certainly, we don't have many familiar faces up top, and that's where we'll go to this top tier. Sam Burns is 11K. Will Z is 10.8. Sergio is playing, I assume, because he's the defending champ. Sanjay and Corey Connors. We got 5 north of 10. You mentioned Sam Burns, LSU guy, really comfortable in this area, it seems. But you're paying a massive premium. In a field like this, do you say that's fine because spots 2 through 6 are interchangeable, or do you go a different direction?
Well, yeah, and there's absolutely zero way I can bet him at 14-1, right?
That's
like
true.
That's absolutely no shot, which is sad because Sam Burns is somebody that, if you watch this show, I don't know, ever, I pretty much bet every single week. Anytime he steps foot on Bermuda, the number is egregious and impossible to get to here. Not a part of my card. It pains me to say it. I mean, he's like plus 150 to finish top 10 at a number of places. That makes it just so easy for me to be clicking on Sam Burns, though, in DFS. 11K. I'm curious to really see how this top end kind of groups out, but he's getting less ownership than Zalatoris, and I love Zalatoris, so don't get me away from that. But guys like him, I would much rather play Sam Burns than Sergio Garcia. I have more of him than Corey Connors. I have way more of him than Sergio Garcia, by the way. But Sung J M kind of fits in that mold too. What happens on this top end? Because they're not that bulletproof. Like, there's going to be some guys. I remember that was the Detroit thing when Cameron Davis won, where I just said everybody in the top 10, like there's going to be no top 10s out of anybody 10K plus. I think it's very much in play once again this week.
Yeah. I mean, again, themes of the swing season, win equity is wildly flat. There's just not a line of these are not John Rahms up here.
No,
somebody has to fill the top end, and these are good players, but comparatively, a few missed cuts and they would be in the mid-range, like, with these 7K guys. I don't think it's that crazy. So that does free you up to build wildly different. And I totally get that. I'm drawn to Sanjay M. He's had a lot of success more on technical layouts like Honda, of course, but I still like him on Bermuda. He's a really solid player. And I think there's an argument to be made that he actually long-term is the best player in this field. So you're paying a fine price. I have no problem with it. And clearly you got to play somebody up there. So,
and the one thing that's getting me on more Sung Jae is if you just kind of look at the profile of every player, there's no weak hole in Sung JM's game. We know Sergio Garcia can lose it with the putter. We know Zalatoris and Burns are notoriously bad around the greens. You get to Corey Connors, we can't even talk about his putting and stay rational. So like out of everybody 10K plus, he's the only one without a leak. I think that bodes well on a week like this.
I agree with you. And you could take the other side of that argument, and I would say all those other guys have one specific skill set that's elite, and Sungjae kind of doesn't. He's just well-rounded across the board. Connor's irons, Will Z's ability with the irons as well, Burns driving at times. And again, just approach. A lot of these guys are just dominant approach players. So I get it. And Sergio's driving. I like Sungjae though. I think that's a really good starting spot. I always ask you this because I like to kind of envision how you're building. Do you anticipate maybe double clicking north of 10, whether it's Burns and Connors or Im and Connors, a two, Will Z and Im, just some type of combo like that?
Yeah, so I'm doing some Connors, Burns. It is really hard to go Burns, Zalatoris. It's actually, I say that, and then immediately in my mind, I'm like, I have lineups with 1,500 on the table that I don't mind. So out of my 150, there are lineups where I'm kind of just spreading it out in the 7K range. The lower eights is a range I'm absolutely obsessed with this week. And you can build some lineups there where I don't feel like you're giving up a crazy amount of win equity. I mean, if you go through some of the odds from this week, and I'm fortunate I get to do the show on Monday with Jason, it gets me a little bit more prepared coming into this week. I really kind of check myself a little bit Tuesday on some of my takes. And, we didn't have the ownership out yet when we covered everything, but we both were really gravitated toward Aaron Wise, patting Kazire down in the 8K range. And I thought as a result, it would lower some of the ownership 10K plus, but it really didn't. I mean, we have three guys that are north of 22% in Zalatoris, Im, and Connors. And I think there's going to be enough overlap there that I think just playing one of them is more of the decision I kind of want to make. I feel like people are going to really force some 7K plays, some mid 7K plays that I don't really like that much, that I don't think have that much upside, whether that's Zach Johnson, whether that's Mackenzie Hughes, was somebody that people were talking about. Patrick Rogers, I think rightfully is getting ownership. But the build this week for me, I'm trying to pluck one guy from 10K plus, hitting them with another 9K guy, and we'll get to my favorite in a moment, and then spreading it around. And I think that I like those builds the most.
So I just want to expand on what you're saying there and touch back to you before we dive into make the cut in the mid-range. When you mentioned the nines, where are you drawn? Because a guy like Mito has been incredibly impressive, but he is getting priced up. Who knows how good this guy is? Maybe he's the best player in this field. That is definitely possible. I don't think that's true, but it could be. You've got Keegan, you've got Siwoo, Tringale, Munoz, Varner, Cam Davis. There are names here, but is there a guy that you say, okay, this is my natural either balanced starting point or second man in an aggressive build?
Yeah, the one that we didn't say, the Charlie Hoffman, 9K. Okay. Charlie Hoffman, I am just lit on. And it's frustrating because the ownership got there in a very meaningful way. He's 20%, but I don't care. I'm going to fade Cameron Davis and have just about none of him. And I'm going to have a ton of Charlie Hoffman. He's going to be my second or, maybe my highest owned player this week. I have my first run of ownership, 33% is what I ended up with in my 150. And I think that number is going to end up a little bit north of there based on everything that I'm seeing. The guy goes out and he beats up on some of these fields in this kind of a spot. Charles Schwab, third. We've seen multiple times where the irons just get ridiculous. And at 9K, if I'm going to just be looking at this, like Cameron Davis, go through, if you just want to do like a box score watch of Cameron Davis versus Charlie Hoffman, I'm shocked that they're at the same amount of ownership. And I just think Charlie Hoffman's the exponentially better play, more of a known, and I just feel very confident in him this week.
The irons have been fantastic. We've already made a case that bad putters, and he can be awful at times, can get hot here. We've seen it time and time again. I guess, and I'm not going to quote you on this, of course, but when you look at Charlie Hoffman, you mentioned the ownership. You mentioned he's going to be very popular. He's 9,000. So out of say a third of your lineups have him. Of that third, are any of those lineups going to have guys where Charlie Hoffman is the most expensive and you have five guys south of him?
Yeah, there are. There's a couple that are. And it's weird because the way that I look at it too is that when I go through the odds this week, and this is something that just got me thinking, and maybe I'm just really overthinking this week because I've spent a lot of time on it. I just feel as though compared to a normal week, the betting odds are not reflective of the actual odds in a meaningful way, like specifically top 10 odds. It's impossible. None of my bets, and I know I've been taking more long shots as it is, but like Sam Burns shouldn't be 14-1. Maybe he should be 14-1 in this spot, but he shouldn't be plus 150 to top 10. I mean, the guy has downside for sure, even at 11K. The thing that's nice is that we play an ownership game in DFS, and he's the lowest owned of that grouping up top. So I really like getting to him there as well. I feel also that like amongst this mid 9K range, like there's not a lot of like Cameron Tringale, I'm so much lower on than the field. Harold Varner is getting attention, but I'm going to be a little bit there. Cameron Davis, I'm completely off of. And so it just becomes so easy to be able to click on him, say, all right, well, I'm already off these guys anyway. I don't really need to pair them. Like Mito Pereira, I have a little of, but like it all becomes Seamus Power. Like Seamus Power, his odds comparative to this field, like the guy has actual win equity, and you can start with Charlie Hoffman in the top of your range. And compared to if you had a John Rahm, DJ, anybody, we've been playing so many events that have been small field events with very top heavy players that are so consistent. That doesn't exist here. And so for me, I'm just taking my shots in a number of large field lineups where, yeah, he's going to be the most expensive player.
Yeah, I mean, I wish in a future world we'll be able to bet no, yes, and no on every betting prop in the world. That would be nice because I would take no on a lot of these top 10 odds if there was a line the other way in due time. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so you're comfortable with potentially some balance builds, and that kind of transitions us nicely into that next tier. We're gonna just extend make the cut. That's what I do because in a field like this, honestly, all these guys you got to ask, are they going to make the cut? Because it's that type of golf. We don't know what the hell's going on. It's swing season. We saw that with Rahm prepping for the Ryder Cup and whatnot. Let's start in these 8K range. And even some of the lower nines, a guy like Harold Varner, you mentioned Seamus. We've got Griot, who's playing god awful. Wolf is there. Where do you go on name recognition? Gary Woodland as well, or do you go with guys who have shown in the small sample that they're actually ready to play right now?
I was shocked when I saw the first ownership run and saw that Wolf was under 5%, because I know how many people like to click his name, and we haven't seen him forever. If I set the over under at 7% on Matt Wolf, I'm taking the over still, I think. How about you?
I would think his name recognition, and even though he's risky, I think his price and name recognition will hover him around 10%.
Okay, because I have 2% and I just don't see it budging much. And it makes me nervous now because I felt like he was going to be a de facto like 10% and just don't play any kind of a guy. And maybe I need to reconsider that, but I don't see that changing for me. I'm just going to be completely off. Griot, you talked about his recent form. I really have no words to describe what we've seen out of him. It's brutal. Seamus Power, love. I just think that look at his run of guys against a mediocre field. Barbasol, obviously the W in an alternate field event, but John Deere 8th, Rocket Mortgage 8th, 19th Travelers, 19th Palmetto. I'm not going to completely discount Wyndham Northern Trust, but I mean, it just wasn't going to happen for him there. I think he's pretty secure with this card. I think he ends up hitting the ground running, somebody I'm much higher on than the field.
Don't play Griot. I don't see what.
I'm sorry.
It hurts me.
I know. I heard it in your voice. It was really not okay.
I mean, he could turn it around, sure. It's not happening. And everyone will look and think it's a putting issue. Of course, he's losing strokes with the putter. The issue isn't that he's not gaining like 7 strokes on the approach anymore. He's just average with his irons. If Griot's average with his irons, he's off the tour. Never mind the putter. His out is be the best top 5, top 10 guy in every field with the approach, and then just hang on. So.
You just used one of my takes to give analysis. I love that about you. I was going to say, I know. I just feel, honestly, this is like truly a lifetime achievement
I took
award.
Your soul, and then I used the useful information.
Oh man, that scene freaked me out as a kid, by the way.
Yeah, that's what happens.
After he fights the Jamaican guy, I was like, oh no, this is not good.
So you're up on your Mortal Kombat trivia, and that's why we have you on this show. And I respect that. You mentioned, I'm not on the Monday show, but I am very happy to hear, and chat would have alerted me if there was any Aaron Wise slander, but it sounds like there wasn't. It sounds like you were pretty high on him. I love the spot. He's another streaky putter. A lot of times it streaks bad, but you can't argue the talent. You can't argue the scoring. He's a great price this week.
Yeah, and I mean, Memorial was a top 10. That was nifty, and that's nice to look at. But Wells Fargo, Bermuda, Honda, Bermuda played horrible that weekend after 64-64. I just think there's such a crazy amount of upside for him in this spot. Like flat out go out and win. I bet him. I'm going to play him. I'm just very, very invested in Aaron Wise this week.
Yeah, listen, this is a guy, I know he can do it. He's won on tour. He's got talent. It was a bad year for him. There's no doubt about it, but this is still a guy. I'm going to reference this until it really doesn't make sense. A couple of years ago, he was one of the few players. He made the cut in all 4 majors in the same year. This guy can play against elite competition, and now he gets a class drop. I really like him.
There was also a year Ricky Fowler top 10 every major. Yeah, well, so it happens.
And there was a year where Smiley was in the conversation to win a major. So, things can happen, but we're not there yet with Aaron Wise. He's next to guys like Kazire, CT Pan, Doug Gim, Matthias Schwab. That's a really interesting name. Everyone knows I love that guy in life. It's just hard to know where he falls in the hierarchy of an average PGA Tour field.
You love Matthias Schwab? I've never heard you talk about him.
What? What are you been in a coma?
And I love this guy. I mean, Euro Tour special. Let's go.
What? I was playing Matthias Schwab, before people even knew what was going on. That WGC, don't hate on Matthias Schwab. He's my favorite.
I didn't hate on him. I'm literally just saying that I've never heard him be your boy. There's guys like Doug Gim at the exact same price. He's your boy.
No. This is all not true. Matthias Schwab is fantastic. He can't putt.
Love him.
And again, I don't know exactly what we're going to get. We've seen time and time again, guys come over from Europe and it can go, you've got Garrett Higo, and then you've got a lot of other guys, Tom Lewis, many other names that it really is a struggle. And I worry a little. I do think that Schwab is playable. Gim, CT Pan, to me, are safer options though.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, and I mean, Doug Gim, ball striking extraordinaire. You really want to play bad putters this week.
I do. I don't want to group them. I don't want to group them all together. And see, we had to call in Josh Engelman to get everything straight with Wise because
Josh, what's up, my guy?
I think that you really can make a case for some bad putters. I think stacking them and correlating them would be a giant mistake because you're not going to flip 6 putters in a given week, but sprinkling in a 1 or 2 off with those type of guys, I think it could be extremely effective here.
Yeah, for me, Patton Kazire, 8,200 is going to be a guy I click on a lot. Everybody knows I'm already a mark for this guy, Sea Island dude. I'm going to play an ungodly amount of him. Just quality of player. I mean, he is not an $8,200 player in this field, and I think that that's mainly why I'm clicking on him the most. But ownership under 10% for him just also feels flat out wrong.
I'd agree with that. I mean, ownership's going to be very difficult in swing season, just because we've got new players. It's tough. But I think this is a range to really attack. Is there anyone else in the 8s, the low 8s that you think is worth mentioning, or do you want to move on to the true mid range?
I'm double on Schwab. I'm so happy that you're there as well. Gary Woodland is a tough one for me. Like, you want to talk about quality of player. The guy's got a US Open within the last 2.5, 3 years or whatever it was. And I was at that Pebble Beach and you just hit that 2-iron absolutely everywhere. We're going to see him start getting back into form again. Is it going to be this week? I would feel really dumb if I didn't have at least a little bit, but I don't want to make him like a make or break portion of my week with his current form. It's just been so bad. The guy couldn't get past first round of the playoffs. A steep fall off, but we've seen in some of these weaker field events, 3M 11th, Barracuda 7th. He can definitely turn it on. Class of the player. I think that that's mainly why I'm just a little bit above the field, but I don't want to make a crazy case for him.
It's hard to really hone in on him, but I do think Gary Woodland, I mean, quality of player long-term, he's in the top couple guys in this entire field. So I get it there. As Nightbot has alerted everybody, now is the time, man. If you haven't signed up and you want to, and you say, you know what, I just want to try some things out. We have Awesemo Plus weekly passes for $29.95. It's going to give you full access to all the premium content and tools, player projections, ownership, our Slack channel, lineup builder, all of that. And it's not just for golf, of course. We've got everything you want: college football, NFL, NLB, NBA. It's all happening here. The promo code for this show is PGA Live before lock, all caps, one word, and you're going to get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. No better time to do it. You save some money. you give it a shot for a week. And if it's not for you, we totally understand. We hope you still watch the shows and maybe you'll come back at a later time, but no reason to not at least give it a shot. Great time of the year with all the sports going on. All right, let's go down to the mid-range. We're going to start seeing some Corn Ferry names as well. Josh wants to know about Joseph Bramlett, so we can ask about him. You've got Pendrith there, Killikeith, Ches Reavie, Scott Stallings, I think is interesting. What say you in the upper sevens?
So Joseph Bramlett's like my age, and my buddy played him like a Cal-Am thing, like literally 9 years ago or 10 years ago. Oh, it was a long time ago. Kid's from Stanford. I'll always take a couple shots on him. It's just so weird that he threw that name out. So now I'm adding him back into my pool. Taylor Pendrith, I like a lot more at 7,800. I'd rather click on his name. He's projecting out really well with Alex. So 7,800 for him. Somebody that, also 11th, 13th at the Barracuda and Barbasol. Got to be feeling pretty good. These are just some of the weaker events. You want guys who can actually compete, get top 10s, top 15s, in a weaker field. And this upper 7K range, Scott Stallings, another guy where, I 3.3% for him, a guy that definitely has expressed quite a bit of upside, not just the Ford net last week, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Everything's so confusing. You got a top 10 there. I'm going to be going back his direction a little bit as well. But Keith Mitchell is the star prize for me on this $7,800 range. Oof. Yes. Star prize, that's maybe the worst setup humanly possible, but Keith Mitchell, a Sea Island guy, another Bermuda specialist type of dude. We saw him completely, I think it was that Sunday that he was playing alongside Rory. And I don't remember what happened earlier this season. Yeah, Wells Fargo, he ended up getting a third there. Like, sign me up for a little bit of this dude. Fourth at the Zurich, that's a 2-man game. But again, just Bermuda seems like him. If I'm going to play him and Sam Burns, you don't want to like group Bermuda specialists. That doesn't have anything to do with like their overall game. But I just really like him in that range too.
Maybe as a luxury ad for me, but I have certainly Pendrith, Stallings, and even Bramlett ahead of him. Stallings is a guy experienced, playing well, just should be ready. And Taylor Pendrith is one of those guys, you highlighted this, in his limited opportunities, he seems to be fine. He made the cut at the first event of this season. In the past, when he's gotten a spot start, made the most of it. This is the type, I say this every year, when the FedEx Cup playoffs roll around, there's going to be a couple of names and we're going to say, how is this guy here? He's missed 15 cuts in a row, and it's going to be because of a week like this. These are huge. Yeah, these are huge, huge opportunities for guys graduating from the Corn Ferry Tour to bank FedEx Cup points right off the bat. I think you can target some of those guys. Pendrith would be one. Scott Stallings isn't that, but he's certainly in play as well. And then you mentioned earlier in the show, Patrick Rogers, I think, is going to garner some ownership because of what he did in the first event of the season. What do you do with him?
You play him. Okay. He's your boy. You should
know
better than anybody. He is.
I liked him in the 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know you did. And you put me on him, and I like you for such things.
You see?
You do nice things. And so I therefore must follow you into the dark, just like Death Cab for Cutie taught me. So 7,600, absolutely see where I go with things. I don't even really know anymore. Patrick Rogers, though, definitely going to be a meaningful part of my builds this week.
Yeah, I do think there's a part of it. Some of the value I think has been taken out. 2 weeks ago, he was not nearly as popular as he's going to be here, but he's also a guy, he's an elite scorer. He's an elite putter at times, and you can go there. Now we're working into the true mid-range. It's time for the Luke List portion of the show. That should hit the like button for Luke List, people. I need all the help I can get because I'm going to him again. I don't know if I'm just sucked in because I look at some of these guys and I say, man, Luke List fits that profile. Elite scorer. He can't putt. I think he could do it here. He's a runner-up here in 2016. I know that was quite a while ago. It's still a spot that I think this tournament in particular should be better to him. The last couple of years, he's struggled.
I love Luke List. I'm playing him this week. And I haven't been playing a lot of him recently. So, this kind of, oh, good. I just X'd out of my lineups. That's great. That was a great time to do that. Luke List, I'm getting a lot of as well. So, we're holding hands on that guy. There's just so much upside in him. And 7,500, he's somebody that you want to have on your betting card as well. I talk about this, or I've talked about it multiple times on this show. You want guys who can also just beat up on some of these weaker fields. We have a 5th at the Barbasol. We have a 4th at the John Deere, 6th at the Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo obviously was not a weak field whatsoever. 17th Valero Texas Open. In the midst of some of these missed cuts, and the Palmetto one is an outlier. Let's just throw that out the window. Missed cut at Memorial and Schwab. That doesn't look great. Wyndham as well. Didn't play well coming down the end. But God, if you're going to find that terrible putter narrative, Luke List, if it's going to be neutral with the flat stick at any point, it's not even fair how good he is.
I mean, since the start of April of last year, he's lost tee to green once. Say what you want. Now, the putting's been horrendous. There's no doubt about it, but I'm willing to live with that. I really trust him tee to green. And the other thing I like about Luke List, we see his price kind of hang in the 7K range in the fields like Memorial, in the fields like Honda. This is not that. You know, if he was 8,500, I'd say, okay, you know, you're paying that tax because it's a weak field. Luke List is a firm mid-range play once again. So I kind of like that. You see some names there that almost are static. Joel Dahman is like that. I feel like he's perpetually in that range. Chris Kirk is always in the mid-sevens. There are names there. You've got Sneds. And then I want to ask you about a true wild card and Aaron Rye. He's another guy who comes over. We don't know exactly how good he is. Do you err on the side of caution, or is he someone that could make your lineups?
He's my third highest owned player this week.
Okay.
So I hope he plays well. Let's go Aaron Rye. So this is just basically the way that I'm building. If I'm getting up to the 10K range, Aaron Rye is almost like a lock to be in a majority of those lineups. I absolutely love this guy. I think the talent we saw, and it was like, maybe I'm also just a mark for somebody. He went out and just went nuts right before the Open Championship. And I played him again in the Open Championship and he got a top 20 for me there. I think he won that event in Scotland the week before. Correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, the Scottish
it's not
Open.
Showing up where I'm looking at, but that's definitely something that I like. And not the best putter on planet Earth here either, but there is this capability. Yes, he's just so good off the tee here. The approach game, for me, it really just comes down to the approach game because I think he's got a pretty good short game from what we've seen in his limited sample over here. I mean, the Boise Open second. I mean, I don't really know how to look at that, but Aaron Rye, now that he's got his card, I'm ready for Aaron Rye to start hitting the ground running. I'm not expecting EVR things where he just goes on a crazy, super hot heater, but I don't need him to. I need him to top 10 here, and I think he's very capable.
It's an interesting one. Again, we haven't seen a ton from him over here, but he's the type of guy I feel pretty confident he's either wildly overpriced or wildly underpriced. He seems like a high variance type of guy long-term here. He's going to get some experience and he might just be really good. And we might look back and say, my God, can you believe he was your third or fourth man in? There's also a chance he's just one of those guys that doesn't translate here in the US and he's going to struggle. So I think the price is probably more right than wrong. I would buy rather than fade if I had a choice here. So I get it. You're definitely higher on me. I'm really surprised to hear that he's one of your core plays, but he's got the talent. There's no doubt about that.
27%.
Well, let's go Aaron Rye. All right. We're working down now. We're looking for salary relief. We're getting more Corn Ferry players. We got Taylor Moore, Svensson, another Canadian is in there. Jaeger, Barnrat is here. It gets pretty.
Let's go.
I mean, what do? Do you look to end lineups at flat 7? Or do you say, you know what, there's no difference between these flat 7 and 65. I'm going to go even deeper.
I got to shout out to my guy. I'm not sure if he's in the chat here today. One of my best friends growing up, his name's Matt Ford. We played basketball, played golf together growing up in South Dakota. And we send back and forth. Do you remember the old Scottish announcer guy who retired from the Open Championship? He was like the guy who did the first
starter guy.
So yeah, the guy who did all the starting announcements.
Yeah, I love that guy's voice.
Kiradesh Afibanra.
Yeah, that guy.
It's his pronunciation of that and Per-Uvik Johansson. We always send those back and forth.
You got a whole new career on your hands over here.
Well, because they're fantastic. It's like the greatest reading of names ever. But yeah, we're not going to probably the rat, right? I don't know how much I can really get there. He's got an awesome car collection. He played well. Again, why isn't this stuff showing up? I know he played really well over in Europe here right before coming over that BMW championship. I know he played well over there. So there might be a reason to get over his sub 1%, maybe clicking on his name a little bit. I'll dig in more to him because I wasn't getting any, but that would probably be why. Taylor Moore, somebody that I'm getting to a decent amount. I'm not at the field. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think that he's pulling double-digit ownership. I never expected that. Steven Jaeger, the absolute bust of the Fortinet, and that did not go well whatsoever. I'm willing to go back and take some shots on him. Yeah, he's the guy who just dominated Corn Ferry Tour and played really, really well, or at least finished out the regular season standings first. So I'm willing to be going his direction. And I think a lot more now than before. So many guys are just dominating, playing super well in the Corn Ferry and hitting the ground running, coming over here. Scotty Scheffler being the most recent. I think you want to be invested in those guys when they're priced at $7K and see what happens.
There's no doubt a lot of these guys, first tournament didn't play well. I'm saying this partly joking, but honestly, there's a serious part of this. I do think there's a minor impact that DraftKings has not updated the cuts, and these guys don't say 0 of 1. Like Moore, Jaeger, if you click on their names, you don't see that they played 2 weeks ago and were cut. And I think a lot of people aren't even realizing that this isn't the first event of the season. And they just say like, oh, this guy's playing great. And it's like, sort of, but they actually played 2 weeks ago, a lot of these guys, and they missed a cut. I would have looked to play game theory with them because I don't think there's a huge correlation between missing the cut at the Fortinet and this, but that is something to keep in mind. A lot of tournament names. I'm with you. I think this is kind of what you're saying too. If anyone's going to mass ownership, I'll look for pivots because I don't think any of these guys stand out above the rest.
That's probably the right take. Chad Ramey, another one where double-digit ownership. And I was getting to quite a bit of him originally. Now I'm basically 1/3 of the field. I mean, I just don't see any reason that we should be valuing him beyond the likes of Sepp Straka, who's more of a known quantity. Adam Hadwin, certainly a more known quantity. And it's almost like people just want to click on the new shiny toy that got written up somewhere. And now here we go.
No doubt about it. And there's so many, Nick Hardy played well. Grayson Sigg made that cut. There are other guys as well. Chad asked about Swafford. I don't think I'm going to go there. He did not play well at the Fortinet. His around the green game is absolutely busted. I get it if you're going aggressive bombers, but for me, he's on the outside looking in.
That's interesting because he's somebody that was playing really well if you throw out that last tournament. And
yeah,
it's tough. I mean, he's a tough one. I feel like I kind of made a mistake not being there on him, and I'll revisit as well. But I mean, 17th, 11th BMW Northern Trust, this golf course is completely different, obviously different grass type, different everything, but
different field
by drastic amounts. But that's more of a plus in his category than a negative. So I don't really know. He's a better player than 6,900, but is he much better? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't really see it. I'd rather blindly back like Shank. You've got some guys in the sixes that I feel okay. One name I do want to throw out there, I don't have a strong take on him, but I definitely think he deserves a little shout out, is John Augustine. This guy had some serious pedigree out of Georgia Tech, really struggled, did nothing. And this is the classic example. Maybe, it takes some time for certain players to find it. He had missed all these cuts and then boom, hits his top 10. He's sixth at the Fortnite. I want to see where this guy goes. Maybe that's a blip on the radar, or maybe he's just starting to connect the dots.
U.S. Amateur 2019 runner-up.
So
he can play. Played well. Yeah, Masters. He wrecked amateur golf 2 years ago. Did very, very well that summer. Certain guys like that pop. I mean, there's another guy down there at 6,200 and Andy Ogletree, who we can kind of say the same thing, and he's a local guy. So, John Augustine was somebody that Jason had brought up on Monday. I double clicked him just to get a little bit, but I'm not getting more than a little bit. Even like 2-3% in your 150. Sure, maybe that can be a difference maker. I don't see him being like, I need to have him. I don't know what that upside looks like, but I know that if we're going to come off of this sixth at the Fortinet, I mean, if it's starting to come to fruition, you always want to be early to the party. That's just a fact. So let's be early to the party. I'll up it a little bit for you.
I mean, I think he's the type of guy, A, keep an eye on him. B, I think he's worth a sprinkle. You're getting 5-1 on a top 20 in the betting market. I don't think that that's crazy. Like maybe this guy has found something. 5-1 to hit, basically the first 2 pages of the leaderboard. He can do that in a field like this. Chad asked about Fratelli. The price stares me in the face, but when you click in, you realize why he's 6,600. He's just been awful. He can turn it on out of nowhere, but there's nothing to indicate that he's going to.
Okay, yeah, let's not do that.
Okay, well, we don't have to.
Yeah, so we can play JT Poston.
We can. I like Poston as well. I totally
You
get
do?
That. Yeah, why not? Elite
This
putter.
is the first time ever. Elite putter, back-to-back years, top 10s here or top 15s. I mean, put himself in contention last year. We've just never been on JT Pasta in the same week. And that's mainly because you're never on him. So
yeah, I don't like to play a guy that has lost like 11 strokes.
Don't click on it.
It's
don't
just bad. He's worth a shot. I think that this is where you start to develop themes. You've got him, Trey Mullinax, as you talked about earlier in the show, is the guy that I do expect big things from this year. I think he's got opportunities. It didn't start great, but I'm not going to be deterred. That's a macro buy. I did that with Bud Cauley a couple of years ago. It did not work, but I think that Trey Mullinax, he's another guy, plus 700 for a top 20. These are the type of guys you only need to hit one of those, a handful of times here and there to really make them profitable. I think it's worth a look in the mid sixes.
Bud Cauley had the craziest dad that I've ever met in my entire life. Just throwing that out there. Bud Cauley had daddy issues. If you want to know why that didn't work out, I could have told you that probably wasn't going to work out, but that's a story for a different show on a different day.
Bringing the knowledge. Who else do you see? Like, how low are you going? Let me ask you that, because Chad has brought up like Lee Hodges, JJ Spawn as the flat min. There's a million names down here. I just don't know how often you need to click any of them.
I think this is the most important conversation piece of this lower 7K range. And ironically enough, it's connected to you once again. What are you doing with Anirban Lahiri?
I honestly prefer him more at like kind of technical layouts where maybe he doesn't have to take advantage of the par fives as much. 62 isn't a bad price, but again, it's what are you paying up for? Unless you're double dipping north of 10, why not just end with like Straka-esque players? I'm not saying him directly, but someone in that range. I think you can do that pretty comfortably. Even someone like Shank, to me, is a marketably better opportunity than Lahiri.
Are you looking at Lahiri's ownership?
What is it? Is it in the negatives? Like you got a rebate?
15.6%.
Well, that's not going to – he's going to be lesser owned than that, let me tell you. 15.6%?
15.6 is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I think that may be a little heavy, but if Lahiri is very popular, that would solidify him as possibly the worst play in the last quarter century. Don't play Lahiri if he's going to be chalk.
Okay, I don't know about that. This is a guy that I know you've played at like 3%, 4% a number of times where we're trying to make something happen and he gives you access to it. I mean, Anirban Lahiri is not a $6,200 player. That's what it comes down to. But I'm throwing it out there. He is projecting well a number of places, including our own place. It freaks me out a little bit because I just have a feeling that a lot of these 10K builds are going to come down to whether or not if he plays well, I'm in a lot of trouble. I can just throw that out there. But our projection on him is off the chain. Give me the field.
Yeah, you can sleep well at night. Trust me, Annabelle Lahiri is not going to do anything. I hope he does. I love that guy.
Trim that clip, Tyler. Trim it and use it later.
I don't really see that being a big deterrent. For me, you've got guys like Mullinax and those types in the middle of this, or even someone like Doc Redman, who's immensely struggled. I would rather take a complete flyer on him over some of these just no-name players in the lower ranges. It's very possible / probable that a few of them are going to turn out to be very good, but good luck figuring out which of the 20 that is. And to me, let other people do that difficult work and go with more known quantities.
I'm right there with you. I think that's the right take, period. Is just, even like Brandon Hagee, I feel better clicking his name than I do a number of these other dudes where I'm trying to make it a thing. And maybe part of it too, Andy Ogletree, 6,200. He was like the first guy that Jason talked about Monday. And I like almost passed out, but at the same time, it makes sense. If you want to take some shots on these guys, you want to be early on them because once they start showing it, you're in deep shit because you're not going to be able to get the ownership discount you were the previous tournament. It's recency bias, but it's also just being able to ride the wave when these guys start getting adjusted to tour play. But yeah, I don't find a need to get too weird, especially because I'm overinvested in guys like JT Poston in a very real way, overinvested in my boy Ryan Moore, Shahith Thagala. I'm over the field on. Like, there's just a number of these guys that I can make these narratives for. Make them for yourself too, but don't spread it all over the place. It's just throwing money away.
Yeah. And I think for me, I really advocate for macro buys this time of the year. Like if you find a Corn Ferry guy and you're like, I think this guy's going to be, pretty good this year. And then he misses the cut at the Fortnite. Don't just be like, oh, it's over. Just relax, maybe play him for a couple weeks, get a sample size, and then start formulating what courses maybe are suited for him. Because I have a feeling what's going to happen, you see the swing season. Oh, these 3 guys are the best Corn Ferry players. The rest of these guys are probably not. It's a long season. Some of these guys are going to take some lumps. Maybe they're not in shape just yet, right? In form. There's a lot of things going on at swing season. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'd rather stick with my narratives for a couple weeks than jump around with these type of players. But, last couple guys here, Putnam, I think, is interesting as a different type of build. He's more of a putter. He can't drive the ball at all, but I get what you're doing there. Don't think I'd pair him with like Mullinax types though.
No. I'm not even there for him, period.
Fair enough. Okay. Anything you want to point out on the betting card? I do want to say quickly, it's so cool in swing season. And I mean this completely sincerely, to see still over 100 people watching this right now. It just shows your commitment to the show. It makes it fun. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support. If you are into betting or you want to get into betting, our Awesemo Odds channel is live. It is relatively new. It's growing really quickly. Eric's been putting in a ton of work. I've been putting in a ton of work. We've been doing a great job with the whole team there. If you want Awesemo Odds, go and subscribe. There's a ton of video content over there, all sports. We would really appreciate the support. And certainly that is another avenue we want to talk about. Anything special on your betting card here? Or are you keeping it kind of flat because it's swing season?
No, I'm firing hard.
Firing. That's what I'm talking about.
I am firing Seamus Power at 35.
Is List on there?
Luke List is on there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
50 to 1 Aaron Wise is on my card. Okay. Scott Stallings, 60 to 1 is on my card.
This looks
Luke
like
List,
my card.
80 to 1 is on my card. Lanto Griffin, 80 to 1. That's a FOMO bet. I'm not there very much elsewhere or other places.
Yeah, I don't like that.
100 to 1 JT Poston on a golf course he's shown some form on. Absolutely going his direction. And I can't even say it right now. Sahith Thigala, my boy, 130 to 1, a tiny little sprinkle way. You want to talk in units? I have like 0.1 units. Yeah, I'm putting like $1 out there. No, 130 to 1 because the talent's there. I know, but it's a FOMO bet. It's straight up FOMO bet.
I mean, this is the type of event to do it. There's a lot of opportunities. I think you can either go outrights and have, a bunch of them on your card. I don't mind going the other direction though. These top 20s, you're getting like, as I mentioned, 4 to 6 to 8 to 1 on guys that I think are very, very viable to get in that mix. I mentioned Mullinax, I mentioned Augustine, even guys like Poston, 6 to 1 is out there. You don't want to get too crazy. Even Aaron Rye, 4 to 1. I mean, these are guys you can cash. It's not like an outright, of course. You can hit 50, 60% of these depending on how many you're playing and who you're listing, and you get a big return if you get that course. So stay tuned for that. That's why you're running in our premium Slack. We got a lot of really sharp people in there talking betting, getting dangerously insane. But it is that time, as it always is. We move to hot takes to get out of here. It's early in the season. Don't get injured. Don't try to be a hero. What are you going with for your hot take? Oh my God, look at this hot take. Full Keegan this week. He's going to win it. That is a hot take. I love that.
I mean, I'd be okay with it. I actually have some there. All right. We're going to go to top 10 land. Okay. We're going to go to top 10 land on a guy that is just somebody that's kind of the theme of this show. 16 to 1, Trey Mullinax. Let's go. 16 to 1, top 10.
I did that at the Fortnite, that exact bet. I had Trey Mullinax top 10. He didn't come in the top 10, but I'm not deterred. I really, really like that. I see where you're going. Where do I want to go? I mean, we already talked about this. I'm telling you, you mentioned it. I think that listen, when you're talking about outrights, you're talking about maybe hitting one a year at big odds, and that's going to make your whole year. I really do think that List is worth being on the card this week. Yes. He's 80 to 1. And this is the type of field and event. If he's ever going to do it, it feels like these type of weeks. I'm not saying it's going to be this week, but I am saying that Luke List is live to get in the mix here. If he putts well, if Luke List gains strokes putting this week, he is going to be there on Sunday. That is my hot take here. It's got a little caveat, but again, it's early in the season. We're just having some fun with that. But Luke List, big week for him. Friends, Sanderson Farms. Stay tuned. Plenty more golf. Once it starts, it never stops. And all the other sports are rolling on. NBA is only a couple weeks away. I know Eric's excited just like me. Brand new shows and content coming here from Awesemo.com. For Tyler behind the glass, for myself, for Eric, good luck, my friends. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.